Hello everyone, welcome to this lesson. The title of this lesson is Charlie Chaplin and Modern Times. There is a linguistic expression known as Chaplinesque. In the linguistic register, Chaplinesque is a portmanteau word. A portmanteau word is a combination of two lexical items. Chaplinesque is formed by combining the proper noun chaplain and the suffix esque. Esque means resemblance or style. Then what could be the meaning of the linguistic expression Chaplinesque? The word Chaplinesque refers to any humor, acting style or film form that bear resemblance to the unique signature style comedy or performance mode or film idiom of Charlie Chaplin. The word Chaplinesque signifies a whole package of stylistic, narrative, and semantic universe, especially in the context of film studies. Primarily, the word evokes a very powerful visual symbolism of the poor universal tramp wearing a tight second-hand black jacket, oversized baggy trousers, a derby hat, and a pair of ill-fitting black shoes. A characteristic toothbrush mustache and an ever-swinging black walking cane complete the Chaplinesque visual metaphor. The Chaplin tramp is a representative of the marginalized urban lives in the modernist phase of human civilization. Chaplin modeled the tramp as a combination of many binaries and conflicting human character traits. Tramphood could simultaneously suggest high intellectuality and utmost stupidity, hyperactive everyday life and despicable laziness, pathetic poverty and pinnacle of luxury, political critique of the most sophisticated kind, and bawdy jokes of inferior quality, a perpetual flirt and an anti-establishment voice, possessing high moral values but always prone to free alcohol, kind towards the weak and critical of the powerful, and so on. Chaplinesque also suggests a powerful, crisp and condensed package of all these things. By now, Chaplinesque has already grown into a universal cultural code. Charlie Chaplin's tramp has been with us since the year 1914. Chaplin's tramp appeared on the silver screen for the first time in the film Mabel's Strange Predicament, directed by Mabel Normand, under the banner of Keystone Studios, California. The tramp was the result of a sudden character improvisation by Charlie Chaplin in response to the Keystone Studio producer Mack Sennett's suggestion to Chaplin during the shooting of Mabel's Strange Predicament. At that time, Charlie Chaplin was a newcomer at the Keystone Studios. In his autobiography, titled My Autobiography, Chaplin narrates how the tramp, the evergreen and one of the most readily identifiable silver screen characters, was born all of a sudden. I quote, "I was in my street clothes at Keystone Studios and had nothing to do, so I stood where Sennett could see me. He was standing with Mabel, looking into a hotel lobby set, biting the end of a cigar. 'We need some gags here,' he said, then turned to me, 'Put on a comedy makeup, anything will do.' I had no idea what makeup to put on. I didn't like my getup as the press reporter. However, on the way to the wardrobe, I thought I would dress in baggy pants, big shoes, a cane and a derby hat. I wanted everything in contradiction. The pants baggy, the coat tight, the hat small and the shoes large. This newly invented, unpredictable, destitute protagonist ruled the Chaplin filmscape till his 1940 film The Great Dictator, where the tramp satiristically impersonates none other than Adolf Hitler, the Nazi fascist regent of the then Germany. The film Mabel's Strange Predicament is known for its first ever featuring of Charlie Chaplin as the tramp. The overdrunk, swaying tramp intrudes into a city hotel lobby occupied by the bourgeois folk of the town. The tramp's drunken pranks, flirtatious nature, querulous temperament, and disregard for party etiquettes upsets the familial, friendly, public, and love relationships of the occupants of the hotel. It's a critique of all flimsy, fragile relationships maintained by the bourgeois. Apart from Chaplin, Mabel Normand also appears in this movie. Ever since this first appearance, the tramp kept alive the filmic fun factory for many more decades to come. Now let's have a short glance at the career profile of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was born on 16th April 1889 at East Lane, London, as the eldest child of his father. His father, Charlie Chaplin Sr., was a part-time singer by profession in London music halls. His mother, Hannah Hill, was also a music hall singer. However, father's alcoholism and mother's ill health and insanity pushed the family into poverty, and Charlie Chaplin had to attend the school for the destitute children in London. At a very young age of 5, Charlie Chaplin started to perform on stage as a boy dancer in the music halls. By the turn of the 20th century, London theatre managers at West End, like the Duke York's Theatre, had acknowledged Charlie's, the teenage boy's, brilliant performance, especially his comic gags, and in no time he became one of the most popular comedians on stage. After a couple of rounds of North American theatrical tours by Fred Karno comic troupe in the first decade of the 20th century, Chaplin became a popular comedian on the American stage as well. Charlie Chaplin's celluloid initiation occurred in 1913 when he was invited to join the Keystone Studios, run by the New York Motion Picture Company, as a contractual comic actor with a weekly salary of $150. Making a Living, 1914, a silent one-reel film directed by Henry Lehrman, is considered to be the cinematic acting debut of Charlie Chaplin. The director, Lehrman, does the lead role in the film. About this debut film of Chaplin, Simon Lowish makes the following comment. I quote, "A standard Keystone knocked them down one-reeler. Making a Living nevertheless featured several different locations and some elaborate street settings on a major thoroughfare buzzing with traffic, making an effort by Sennett to give Chaplin some space to show his tricks. The tramp is nowhere in evidence, and though there is some business with familiar knee slapping and cane, the physical action is more an imitation of the arm waving antics of Ford Sterling than anything else." In his legend, Charlie disliked the picture, but in the flush of its novelty for him, he had a few critical tools with which to judge whether it suited him or not. It was his first job in picture. Unquote. In a review that appeared in the leading film magazine of the day, The Moving Picture World, Chaplin's first movie appearance was assessed in the following words. I quote, "The clever player who takes the role of a nervy and very shifty sharper in this picture is a comedian of the first water who acts like one of nature's own naturals." Unquote. Everything which were later on came to be known as Chaplinesque had been there in Making a Living. which prophetically suggested that Chaplin would make a beautiful living with the new medium, cinema. From this 1914 debut acting career in making a living to the next 50 plus years till his 1967 directorial swan song, A Countess from Hong Kong, Charlie Chaplin steadily built and maintained his stardom in world cinema. Charlie Chaplin had kept the tramp protagonist in 7 of his total 11 directorial movie ventures. Towards the last phase of his career, from 1947 to 1967, he did not use his signature protagonist, the tramp, in his films. Caught in the Rain, produced by Keystone Studios, was the directorial debut of Charlie Chaplin. The lead role was also played by Charlie Chaplin himself. As in many of Charlie Chaplin's films, the tramp's flirtation with married women causes all riots, upsetting the sacred wedlock and personal trust. The tramp's bohemian behavior disrupts the accepted norms, especially those of the middle-class family establishment. Chaplin takes up the all-in-all responsibilities in his first feature-length film, The Kid. He was the writer, director, music composer, editor, producer, and the lead actor in this family drama of a different kind. Here too, it's a conflict between the value system of the slums and middle class or upper class families. How an innocent infant loses the luxury and protection of his comfortable middle class family, and later on how the boy is ensured of those lost love in a slum is the main storyline of The Kid. After the making of The Kid, Chaplin had produced a series of feature films on socially relevant themes. No doubt all of them were box office hits of the time. The titles of these films are A Woman of Paris, 1923, The Gold Rush, 1925, The Circus, 1926, City Lights, 1931, and Modern Times, 1936. Though technology for producing talkies or sound films are available by the end of 1920s, Charlie Chaplin continued producing largely silent films even in the 1930s. City Lights and Modern Times are films without dialogue. However, starting with his political cinematic satire, The Great Dictator, 1940, Charlie Chaplin embraced the talkie mode of cinema. In the last phase of his film career, starting from Monsieur Murdoch's, Charlie Chaplin stopped making the tramp as his protagonist. Movies like Monsieur Murdoch's, Limelight, A King in New York, A Countess from Hong Kong are the non-tramp films of Charlie Chaplin. A Countess from Hong Kong is the only color film directed and acted by Charlie Chaplin. Somehow, a brilliant all-rounder film person like Charlie Chaplin refused to accept the emerging technologies of film sound and film color in the beginning stages of their availability to the filmmakers like him. As mentioned earlier, Chaplin was at least a decade late to adopt the sound film technology in his great films. Similarly, even the color film technologies like Technicolor was available as early as 1939. Chaplin refused to accept the technology till for about the next 30 years, till he produced his only color film, A Countess from Hong Kong, in 1967. The Gold Rush is a cinematic adaptation of the historic treasure hunt known as the Klondike Gold Rush to the northwest of Canada by prospectors in 1880s. The event was also known as the Alaska Gold Rush. It was one of the greatest migrations in the history by prospectors, numbering more than 10 million. However, only 1/3 of them could reach the destination. Even after reaching the destination, only a few could find the treasure. The animality of human hunger for wealth, human beings' cannibalistic urge to save life during starvation, collapse of camaraderie at the threat of death, human betrayal, etc., are the thematic concerns of this movie. This is a cinematic textbook on human greed for wealth and their ultimate perish in search of the remote treasure. Conflicts between nature and human beings and wild animals, and conflicts among the human beings themselves are depicted in this film. The Great Dictator is another major cinematic political critique by Charlie Chaplin. This talkie film remains to be one of the most enduring cinematic, comic, sarcastic digs on Adolf Hitler, the then racist tyrant of Nazi Germany, and Benito Mussolini, who was the fascist regent of Italy then. Notably, Chaplin himself plays both the roles of the victim and the victimizer, the Jewish barber and Adolf Hitler respectively. Most of the action takes place in the fictional country Tomania, a parodic representation of the factual country Germany under the dictatorship of Adenoid Hinkel, a parodic representation of Hitler. The pathetic living conditions in the Jewish ghettos in Tomania are often juxtaposed with the luxurious lives of the people in the palace. The military and racist comradeship existing between the dictators of Tomania and Bacteria, a parody on Italy under Benito Mussolini, are depicted with a politically biting combination of sarcasm and humor in the film. The arms race between the heads of two fictional nations, their idiotic eccentricities, their deceitful public utterances, their rumor mongering, power hunger, pseudo patriotism, and their ultimate defeat are depicted in the film. One of the memorable sequences in the film is Hinkel's tossing of the balloon globe, which indicates his ambition to conquer the whole globe by using military power. To Simon Lowish, Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator was, quote, an unintended battle cry as Hollywood pussyfooted around the subject of anti-fascist commitment. The strange case of The Great Dictator, however, is that it resonates not so much with an effective call to arms against tyranny, but with an unequivocal cry for justice and peace, unquote. Charlie Chaplin's classic film, Modern Times, is a sharp critique of the capitalist industrial apparatus of assembly line production method that reduces an organic agricultural laborer into an industrial mechanical hand destined to do only a single repetitive function in the larger chain of jobs required for the manufacturing of an industrial product. Such mechanization or materialization of man renders him finally into a psychotic situation, making him an alienated subjectivity. Modern industrial institutions, both capitalist and socialist, turn the factory laborers into dehumanized objects, reducing each one of them into biomachines destined to do a single piece of never-ending repetitive task. During this process, the creative and multitasking capability of human beings are denied to perform. In such an industrial institutional ambience, finally, the laborers are alienated from their own labor, institutions, and finally from the society too. In the Marxist critical terminology, the conversion of a multidimensional human being into a thing-like being by the modern capitalist system is called reification. It was George Lukács, one of the key ideologues of Western Marxist thought, who theorized the idea of reification. In modern times, Charlie Chaplin is attempting to create a cinematic discourse on the alienated or estranged subjectivities of the modern industrial civilization. Modern Times can be described as a futuristic movie because Chaplin here anticipates the system of digital surveillance of the mass through the connected networks of CCTVs, which is very common in the context of contemporary 21st century cyber and digital civilization.
Hey! Quit stalling. Get back to work. Go on.
This 90-minute black and white movie features Chaplin's iconic tramp in the lead role of a factory worker, Paule Goddard as Ellen Peterson, who is now reduced to a young street urchin after the death of her father, and Ernest Garcia in the role of the president of the steel factory where the tramp is employed. The interiors of a steel factory somewhere in Detroit, which was known as the Motor City in the USA, a mental asylum, city streets filled with agitating and unemployed people, jail premises, a cafeteria, a departmental store, a wooden hut, a pub, etc. are the major sites where the plot of the film unfolds. In his autobiography, Charlie Chaplin talks about the germination of the idea for the film Modern Times. He explains, quote, "I remembered an interview I had with a bright young reporter in the New York World. Hearing that I was visiting Detroit, he had told me of the factory belt system there, a harrowing story of a big industry luring healthy young men off the farms who, after 4 or 5 years at the belt system, become nervous wrecks. It was that conversation that gave me the idea of Modern Times. I used the feeding machine as a time-saving device so that the workers could continue working during lunchtime. The factory sequence resolved itself in the tramp having a nervous breakdown. The plot developed out of the natural sequence of events. After his cure, he gets arrested and meets a gamin who was also been arrested for stealing bread. They meet in a police car packed with offenders. From then on, the theme is about two nondescripts trying to get along in modern times. They are involved in the depression, strikes, riots, and unemployment." Unquote. Because of its description of the failure of the capitalist system in protecting human rights and for its support for a humane political culture, Modern Times was often accused of being communistic. Urban poverty, anti-communist political status quo, police brutality, unprofessional jail system that further fosters criminality, maddening industrial culture are some of the main themes of Modern Times. With Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin has become an artist activist who aestheticized a progressive politics. In Charles J. Malon's opinion, I quote, "Modern Times, in many ways, one of Chaplin's most interesting and fascinating films, can be most profitably examined here as a case study of ambivalence about the relationship between aesthetics and ideology. As he contemplated modern times, we have seen that there was some pressure on and compulsion in Chaplin, the artist, like many other artists in the Depression, to make a political commitment and to express that commitment through his art. However, this conflicted with Chaplin's earlier avowed belief that art and propaganda did not mix. Unquote. Modern Times is a cinematic critique of the Great Economic Depression of the 1930s, which ruined many developed capitalistic economies worldwide. Urban and rural unemployment increased exponentially during this period. The immediate victims of depression, primarily caused by the crash of the gambling stock markets that played with investors' money, were the urban industrial laborers and rural agricultural folk. Charlie Chaplin was looking at the Depression from the perspective of the lowest strata of the society. That's from the perspective of the industrial laborers and unemployed people. This cinematic discourse from a lower class perspective is politically charged. And this could be the reason for many to label this film as a red film. The gigantic machine at the Electro Steel Corporation is the microcosm of the larger dehumanizing, engulfing, lunacy producing and alienating capitalist social system. To sum up, these are some of the salient features of Charlie Chaplin's films. They are cinematic critiques of the society of their times. The bourgeois life in the peak of industrial modernism is often the object of satire in Chaplin's films. Through his films, Chaplin proved that without sound and color, it was possible to make engaging films. Topical events are taken as the subject of most of Chaplin's films. Perspective from the lower class often gets priority in Chaplin's films. The tramp is a universal icon of impoverishment, life force, and resistance. The class question had always been a major theme in Charlie Chaplin's films. In his first tramp phase filmography, his protagonist's drunkenness is often used as a pretext to upset the fragile pseudo-norms of middle-class society. His early films also satirize the stupidity and jealousy of middle-class life. The tramp's flirtatious advances often foregrounds the misogynist idea of the frailty of women in relationship. In his second non-tramp phase, he looks into the pitfalls of high life, and physical agility and physical feebleness are often juxtaposed in his films, where the latter succeeds finally. Thank you for watching the video.